Of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Max and Lydia Altenried's daughter, and Max and Lydia were one of the first builders of a house, a recreational house on Hollyhock Lane. The address is 146 and the house is still there. And my brother then built a house right next door to it, so.
Clear your throat.
Yeah. I remember the early days of the lake through a child's perception. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old when they did the promotional speedboat races down by the dam. And there was a gun club at that time that preceded the lake. They were there first. And they had a shooting range and, skeet shooting. And that's where the promotional viewing area was. They used the clubhouse at the gun club, and then refreshments, and that's the way Major Dunlap was promoting the sales after he had platted all the areas and everything. So in the early days, things went slowly developing and building, and most of the houses built were just summer type cottages and recreational, go there fishing or go a little boating.
There was no water and sewers out here, so
No.
you were on wells and you had outdoor johns.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's.
Yeah, that slowed down
Yeah,
the progress.
yeah, people weren't anxious to move in. Yeah.
That's true. Where was I now? Well, anyway, Dad built the concrete block or house over there, and he had an extra lot as well. And on that lot, he built a tennis court, and it was hard surface, and it had a fencing all around it, and it was lighted by 4 floodlights at night. And it attracted Glenn. He was 5 years older than I and my brother, and
Well, and I played tennis in high school,
Yeah,
so tennis
yeah.
was my thing.
so
Yeah.
that's how we met early on, and I was like 12 or 13 years old. And we had Wayne Weekey. The Weekeys owned the point over here, the one that's for sale for $700,000, Lynch's property. But anyway, Oscar Weekey had a Lustron home over there that was a metal fabricated house. And there again, it was just for, fun and summers and weekends, not to be lived in full time. They had one son, Wayne Weekey, and Wayne Weekey and my brother and I were all over this lake with our boats, and there was nobody out here. It was just us. And it was just in the summertime, and then in the winters we would move back into our home in Edwardsville. And I like to mention the early residents out here, and in some of the photos that we have, you'll see some of the early houses. The early residents were businessmen in Edwardsville. Ed Baldwin owned the Baldwin drugstores. And then there was Jim Jones, and their houses were actually that house over there where Newhouses live. That was Jim Jones' property. He had that designed by an architect, and he lived there full-time. And then Ed Baldwin had the house over here, and it
He
remained.
owned up to the street. He
Yeah.
owned all the way from the
he
street
owns-
out,
He owns all
the
that
whole
land.
peninsula. Yeah.
So anyhow, that's the way it went. And there was Bud Shepherd. He had a home on Westlake. It's still there. The Hendersons live in it, Pat and George Henderson. But that house is visible when you stand on my mom and dad's old property and look from the south side of Hollyhock Lane across the lake. You'll see that house up on a ridge. And we have a photo of it here somewhere. Oh, the Weekeys had the point, that whole point there, and a beautiful gazebo and dock and diving board and one son. And it was my brother and I and Weekey, and if he brought friends from Belleville, that's where we played. But there was a big stump that came up out of the water off the point there at the Weekey property.
Big tree got
And-
chopped down,
Yeah, but it stood out of the water this high, and it was a hazard to boaters, especially in the evenings. And Oscar Weekey built a model airplane, about this wide with spinning propellers, and it was on a post, and it acted
He
as a
mounted
weather
it
vane.
on that stone.
Yeah, yeah, so that was one of the colorful things that happened out here. Then what else could we talk about? I mentioned earlier before you were filming that we used to play in the spillways at the dam, and there was nobody there saying, no, you can't do that.
There was nobody out here to say no about anything.
But
You
that
just, you
spillway-
were here, yeah.
The spillway would get all slippery with moss,
Moss.
and we would slide down, and the most hazardous part of it was you might rip a hole in your swimming suit
Yeah.
doing that. Then you get down to the bottom, and
Had a
I'm
hard
telling
time
you,
getting up.
Was it
yeah,
concrete or dirt?
yeah, climbing
was
back
it,
up.
Was it dirt or concrete or bricks?
It
It
was
was
concrete.
concrete with moss and slippery stuff on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had some things like in the Mississippi River that would direct the water, so it wouldn't just
Barriers to
splash
direct
off.
the water to
Yeah.
one
And you
side.
didn't want to hit one of those barriers, because that was kind of hard on you.
They were trying to direct the water away from
Yeah.
the dam itself. They were putting it out to the side so that it didn't get into the
But
dam.
that kind of spillway was built later. The original one is the one that sticks down into the water in the lake itself. And I understand they're planning some repairs to that in the near future, because the gate that opens is at the bottom. But we could walk up the tunnel under the dam and walk all the way up to
Could go
where
up
the
and look
shaft
up out at the
comes.
sky.
Yeah.
You could look
Really?
up, yeah, as long as there was no water coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't do it when the water was coming in.
Right, we picked a time, and we were here so much that we could pick a time when we could walk up in there and have some fun, and then climb around on it too.
Hide and seek, yeah.
But I want to speak about our romance, which would not have occurred if we hadn't met at Dunlap Lake. Glenn's 5 years older, he wasn't in high school with me. We didn't know each other in grade school, but as I say, he was fun, and we played and splashed when I was 13. Then he went off to college, and after that he went into the Navy, and meanwhile I went off to college and almost graduated. And the next time we met, he came over in his little red canoe again to visit the Altenreebs.
I visited your folks.
And
Yeah,
I was wearing my little tiger stripe one-piece suit, and he just looked fabulous, and it was like, boom, he's the one.
I didn't have a chance.
You know, by then I was 22 or 21. No, more like 20.
Whatever.
You were 25.
You were grown up.
But I had another year of college at Wash U, and we got engaged, though, that summer before the senior year. And, well, that's our story, and I think we might have been the first romance or people that married. And it stuck, because 62 years later, here we are. And finally, we got to build our own home here on Glenn's father's property.
My dad owned these
Yeah.
lots, and
Yeah.
we got them from him.
He gave it to
And he had 25
us.
acres on the other side of this
Just take a
street,
short break.
so.
Well, this is fascinating. Okay, he's got to do something with the